Ladies and gentlemen, please start your engines.
Well, if you asked so nicely, then I guess we'll do that. So, welcome back to HD Racing, to Le Mans Ultimate, for my very first online race in this game. This was a little bit of a wild one, and I decided to take it a little bit easy, also with the car choice, going with the slowest car class, which is not slow by any means. These are GTEs after all. And I decided to go for the Corvette because it's an interesting car that we don't have in ACC, for example, and I qualified P2, which I was really surprised by. And we are already off. The start procedure is a little bit weird. I'm gonna talk a bit more about that later. But the start from my side wasn't that bad, but take a look at the rear view mirror, because there's a Ferrari coming. And I kind of saw that coming and managed to avoid. The other Ferrari who started in P1 was not so lucky. And that means that I actually benefited from that greatly and find myself in first place after the first corner, which I really didn't think that would happen because, as I said, it's the very first race for me. I only did a couple of practice laps and then qualifying, and well, I didn't really know what to expect, but definitely not that. And you can see more carnage in the background. There was, I think, a Porsche that did spin. And, well, we'll see if I can actually manage to keep this going. Already pulling quite a gap, so not too bad. Definitely struggling a little bit on brakes here. These cars don't have ABS. They have traction control, but no ABS, so you really need to be careful to not lock up your tires. And even the traction control isn't amazing, I would say. As you can clearly see here, it wasn't enough to save me from that. And well, now I'm in a really awkward position. And I was in that moment not really sure what to do. I didn't want to like reverse on the track and then cause a collision or even a mass crash. Not something that I would want for my first race. So I took it very careful, probably a little bit too careful, and actually find myself now in the very back. There are already a couple of people who DNF'd for some reason, and the very back right now is P10, which isn't too bad, but I lost out a lot. So much for that great start, where I did get lucky. Well, wasn't all that lucky after all. I, here by the way, in the menu in the bottom left, tried to check how much damage I have from that, because I definitely hit a wall, but I couldn't really find out if that's displayed somewhere, so yeah, I'm not quite sure if you can see that somewhere. Maybe if some of you know, definitely let me know in the comments. But yeah, from here on out, it's, well, all about trying to catch up, because I feel like my pace isn't all that bad. As I said, a little bit of practice and then qualifying, I felt kind of comfortable around this track. By the way, I haven't really talked about that yet. This is Fuji, a track that I haven't driven in any other game yet, and I wasn't so sure from just looking at it in the beginning, but I actually think this is quite a cool track. It's quite a flowy one in the beginning, and then the last sector is kind of a technical tricky one in my opinion, but I'm kind of fine with it, and I actually enjoyed my time here on Fuji. I think it's maybe in some other racing sims, but I personally haven't driven it anywhere, so I was trying to learn it in practicing, and as I said, qualifying did go kind of well, even though it's what was actually my last lap that put me on P2. And you can see here, once again, that corner really tricky. If you go on throttle a little bit too early or a little bit too much, it's really easy to lose the car there, especially, or at least this one. I haven't tried the other ones all that much yet, only jumped into each car once, and you can see here once again in that last corner, really struggling. I think I'm still pushing the car a little bit too much, maybe even steering too much. This is a different game, both than Forza and then ACC, so something to get used to. And it's not only on throttle, it's also on braking. And you'll be able to see later that you can easily get lockups, and especially in these hard braking zones like here, you need to brake a lot and you need to trail brake, but you really need to trail brake early enough to not get a lockup in these long braking zones. And that's kind of tricky, I have to say, and something I definitely have to learn. By the way, I wanted to talk about the starting procedure. As I said, it's a little bit weird in this game. You basically, if you're in the first row, can just go. If you're behind the first row, then you will have to follow the guy in front. but there's no ghosting like in ACC, so if someone doesn't go, then I don't know if you can overtake them. Then it's like a little bit weird. And yeah, the first row can basically just go, and well, you get like warnings if you're too fast or too slow, but sometimes it feels like you can just floor it from the very beginning. By the way, here, yeah, it was a little bit of carnage going on. The Porsche in front of me did slow down. I did not slow down enough and ramped in the back of him, and now it's like there's people all over. The yellow Porsche is still on my inside, and yeah, there he is, and I think I give him a little bit of a bum. But something that I noticed here, the netcode in Le Mans Ultimate is actually really good compared to ACC, where by the way, as I have to avoid here, I think the yellow Porsche did get or go into a little bit of a slide, but luckily I managed to avoid here. But yeah, I think the netcode in Le Mans Ultimate is really good. In ACC, these kinds of contacts can easily lead to someone else spinning out. But from what I've seen so far, and I haven't done a lot of online races here, but it felt really good. By the way, no idea what the Aston in front was doing or thinking, and if he maybe just stamped the brake at 100% and then lost the car because he was steering a bit. It was really weird, because in a straight braking room that shouldn't really happen, but no, it did. And luckily it did spin off the track, so me and the Porsche behind are still able to go. By the way, these online races in the beginning in Le Mans Ultimate, so those that are available if you're just starting out, are with fixed setups, which I also really enjoy, because you don't have to worry about setting up your car correctly. The only thing you can change is fuel and then the electronics of the car, so TC and brake bias. I think that's everything that you can do, and I think that's pretty good. As I catch up to the next Porsche in front here, who I think is struggling a little bit. He was going kind of slow. By the way, love the livery from that guy. I think it's called the Rexy livery by some people. I think it looks really nice. But yeah, he is going wide here, and I was kind of afraid that we might bump into each other, but actually kind of nice racing so far. But then, well, I think I overdid it a little bit, but I think also he did get into a slide. I was kind of expecting him to, well, miss the corner completely and go very wide, but he somehow managed to keep it kind of on the track, and looked a little bit like he did get into a little bit of a slide, but I also definitely over pushed that, and well, it was my fault that that collision happened. But once again, no one did spin out. So car contact physics in this game, from what I've seen so far, pretty good, and I enjoy the online racing in this, I have to say. As I said, not have had many races yet, but the ones that I had were really enjoyable. And as I said, this was the very first one, and my first kind of like experiences with this game. By the way, this very long right-hander, kind of tricky to like keep enough speed here for on this track in the GTEs. You really can see in the bottom right, the tire display, the front left tire getting really red, so the tire is struggling for grip there. But yeah, overall, pretty good. By the way, we're jumping ahead here, I think 2 laps or something. There wasn't really anything going on. I was trying to catch the guys in front in P1 and P2, and was getting a little bit closer and also pulling quite the gap to the Porsche behind, but once again struggling here in the right-hander. And then I struggle even more here on exit. I over push the tires too much, go on throttle, and well, spin out once again. And I don't know if this was the right maneuver. I was really overdoing it with the reversing and then trying to get the car into the right direction. So for some reason I actually managed to make it or get the car stopped before the wall, but that means that the Rexy Porsche behind me is actually, well, he did catch up quite a bit once again, and I lost out on any chance to catch up to the leaders unless they make a big mistake, because there's only like 3 minutes 40 left now on the clock, so unless they make a mistake, it's gonna be really tough. And you can see here in this long braking zone, I did brake the same that I did always, but from the spin in the first lap and the spin that you just saw, the tires are really struggling, and you can also feel that in the force feedback, by the way. which is also something that I find really good in this game. Force feedback, it just feels very, very like precise, and there's a lot of detail in it. And you can also feel flat spots, because if you brake and you lock up your tires, they slide around, and well, that creates flat spots that you can feel in the force feedback. And you can also feel in the driving that tires are having a little more of a hard time. And well, I definitely cooked my tires on multiple occasions here, and on the braking zones which require, well, a bit more braking, I am definitely struggling right now to, well, get the car stopped without locking up the tires, because there's no ABS, as I said before. It's difficult. If you're used to just driving with ABS, I mean, I've driven in Forza Motorsport without, but I think that game is quite forgiving, even if you don't use ABS, and it's very samey from car to car, and there isn't really much interaction also with tire degradation. Here, there definitely is a lot of that. But yeah, we are actually coming to the end of this race. We're skipping here to the last lap, and well, very enjoyable, I have to say. And even though I did spin 2 times, still managing to get to P3. P4 behind also did have a lot of trouble, and the guys behind more than 30 seconds away now. And also my gap to the front is almost 20 seconds, so I was kind of on my own for the last 2 laps. So, well, it happens. It wasn't like super interesting in the end, but overall the race was cool, and I really enjoyed it, and I did learn a lot. And also, I really like these cars and the track. This combination was really fun, and for a first online race, this wasn't all too bad, I would say. Definitely could have done better, but with the limited practice that I had, and all that was going on, the end result was nice. And also I managed to get the fastest lap in the race, which was, by the way, my last one, because I also had quite some off tracks, so invalid laps. But yeah, overall not bad. So I'm gonna take you along for my quali lap now, so you can also see just how well these cars and the track interact. As a conclusion, definitely really fun so far. I hope it's also nice to watch. Sadly, there are no replays yet, so I can't really show you anything in terms of from another perspective, or we also can take a look at incidents. Again, there is an instant replay function when you're in the game, but that really doesn't help you after the fact. Replay functionality is supposed to be coming at some point, so hopefully that's gonna be there soon. As I said in my very first video looking at the prototypes, this game is very much still in early access and has problems. But the racing on it and just the car feel, the physics, the handling, the force feedback is really, really good already. And I enjoyed my time doing some multiplayer races here. You're gonna see at least 1 or 2 more in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this one. Definitely leave me some feedback if you want to see something specific, or if you want to know something, I can definitely fill you in. But other than that, all that's left for me to say is thanks so much for watching, for being here. I've been HD Racing, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.
That time was a 1:38.